Morning.
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 Evening.
Morning.
Evening, Sam. Yeah.
I forgot what side of the world I was on.
Yeah, a few technical issues this morning. Apologies, everybody. Thanks for waiting, hanging on for us. But no, Sam, Mo, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you. I was waiting for Mo to go first.
Oh, yeah.
We've actually got Mo Majid in person because normally we've got a pixelated mobile phone sort of showing us around the tank. So we've actually got the man himself who's promoting himself, for those that don't know, as a qualified eye surgeon. So if anybody has any, any inquiries, today's your day.
I'm not actually.
Last time I went to, I can't even remember. It wasn't an ophthalmologist, but it was sort of the next level up. I went to an appointment with my daughter, and the whatever the profession name is, they looked at me for about 2 or 3 seconds and went, "Oh yes, you've got this in the left eye and this in the right eye," and it was terrifying. I felt like he just saw straight through me, and he'd never met me before. He just knew everything about my eyesight in a quick couple of second glance. So now I'm all shy.
Yeah, it's the other way around. Ophthalmologist is the top, and optometrist is the one who refers, but it doesn't matter.
Yes.
Well, thank you both of you for joining us this morning. We're obviously going to get to grips with what's been happening in your tanks in a little minute. But before we do that, we'll do what we always do and say good morning to the 20-odd of you, 30-odd of you now, sorry, that have joined us this morning. Thanks for giving up an hour or so of your Sunday morning. First one in the chat was Gaz's Reef. Morning, Gaz. Hope you're good.
Hey, guys.
What we've got in here, Critical Reef is with us as well. Can't watch live. Got to pick the kids up, watch later. Have a great weekend. Thank you very much. Who else we've got in here? CNC Reefs. Good morning. Good morning.
Morning. Hi,
Sam
CNC
loves your
Reefs.
videos.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, how do you have all the time with that tank and the videos, job, kids, family? You're a bit fine, aren't you?
Yeah, I do a bit sometimes. Yeah.
Wow.
That's all right. I mean, you only live once.
Yeah. Is there dare I ask the priority of those jobs? Or
that alters on the daily. So yeah,
okay.
Considering there's no one in the room with me now, yeah, it's all about reefing and content creation.
Of course it is. Of course it is.
Normally on a Sunday night, it's not quite the case, but yeah, but tonight, exception.
Morning, UK. Morning, Anthony. Hope you're good. Happy Sunday to you. John Boy's here as well. Good morning. A few people chatting amongst themselves. The world's tallest reefer, Dan. Evening.
Hey,
morning, should I say. Reefy Reese. Hello. We've got Matt Norfolk Reefer with us as well. Thanks for the support. Haven't got Ron's voice over, but Baby Dave, as you know. Morning. Rob's here. Good morning.
Hey, Rob.
Depeche. Good morning. Joe's in the house as well. Good morning, Joe. Hope you're good, mate. Got your video. I'll show that in a bit. We've got Ryan's Reef. Good morning. Harry's in the house as well. Wouldn't be the normal stream without Ronald in the chat.
Ronald.
Good morning.
Hammy.
Milot's with us and Scooby's Reef. Good morning. Hope you're good. Massive fan of.
Scooby. Wow.
You guess what he's a massive fan of? Oh, dear. Mo, we're going to start with you. She sent me some videos. How's the tank? It's looking good. What's the latest? Do you share anything with us? What's been happening in Mo's salty kingdom?
Yeah, it's doing well. It's okay. It's just plodding along now. Where do you start? I mean, you'll show some videos. So I've just sort of stocked it up with SPS. Even with a big tank, you run out of space on the rocks. So you will have seen the rods that I use, acrylic rods, to just space it out so that as the corals grow, they'll grow into each other and you just get a massive coral scape rather than a rock scape. So that's my idea. So it's future proofing. I do a mix of bolus, as you all know, and some kalkwasser.
Yeah,
bolus works really, really well, but lots of volume. So I was dosing a litre and a half a day, which is expensive. So I knocked that back.
Just to jump in there, when you dose that litre and a half, are you doing that all in one hit before the lights come on?
Yeah.
Wow.
Scary, that.
That is
scary, yeah.
So, I mean, it's, one thing it tells you is what you can get away with. So, you know now that you can dump alk in, right?
Sure. That's one way of looking at it.
You never knew that before. So, for me, it means it's just a different way of using alk. So I'm not so paranoid about using larger volumes. But obviously the cost adds up. There's other things you can spend that money on, like kalkwasser. So I do a mix. One thing actually about the bolus, they were the talk about pH. pH goes up, and it goes up to a good level, and it maintains it. So if anybody's worried about pH, it's not a bad way of pushing pH slowly, but it goes up and it's stable. Maybe not as much as calc, but almost up there. And the difference is if you stop calc, your pH crashes. You stop the bolus because you're doing it once a day. It doesn't really crash. So it does. It takes a while. It does come down, but it takes a while. Don't ask me about the chemistry of it, but you'll have seen a reef about the chemistry of it.
How nervous were you then when you first put the litre and a half in one go?
No, I built it up.
As you know,
I've been doing it for a while, and as I increase the number of corals, the uptake goes up. As the growth goes up, it goes up and up and up, and you get hit a stage where you think that's quite a lot about, not because it's a lot to dump in, it's more about that's a lot of volume. Well, my last tank I started with balling light, and I went up to about 1 litre a day and switched to calcium reactor. And this time I started with kalkwasser, switched to bolus, and then I went back to a bit of kalkwasser. And kalkwasser is pretty cheap. pH is, I've got a lot of surface area, so my pH is always pretty stable. But kalkwasser bumps it up to a nice level, which is probably above what most people have. And growth is really, really good. It keeps the tank stable, and the one thing is it's easy to maintain. You just look at your alk, and I don't know if people have got aqua whizzes now, but with
they're starting to come through. I've seen a few people post on social.
Yeah.
I don't know the keen observers in the background. I just noticed it. I put the box of my aqua whiz behind my seat, and if you look over my shoulder, I don't know if you can see it.
Hang on, let's put you on big screen. Go for it. Just where?
Just see that box there.
All right. Okay. Oh, yeah, we can see it. I can see it now. It's
the aquawiz box. I'd recommend it. I think the Oceamo Mark brings it in for the UK. There's I'm going off on a tangent, but there's no reagent. Test hourly. Look at your curves. You can look back every hour for months, and you can see the way the alk behaves. And it's actually got a doser built into it, so you can pin your alk, and you can dose. I don't do that, but you can dose according to your alk, and you can pin it bang on. And it like normally you set, I don't know, you might do 100 mils every couple of hours on your normal balling or your whatever dosing pre-part, and you look at your KH and you adjust it. So you might do 50 one day, you might do a week later you might adjust it to 60 or whatever you do. This one adjusts the volume itself. So it looks at the KH, says, I need to adjust about this much. It dumps in 50 for that hour. The next hour, your KH might be too high. It might dose 20. The next one, it's too low. It will dose 60. And it adjusts the dosing based on the KH. So your KH is pinned. Mm-hmm. So that I haven't used that facility, but the way it monitors the KH with no reagents, you can just do hourly KH monitoring. And I've done it for 4 months. Mm-hmm. It's really, really good. And I don't worry about it.
Let's have a look at some of these pictures you've sent me then, or video, should I say. So, this is recent then?
Yeah, sorry, it was a bit rough and ready.
Right.
I was away yesterday, and I sort of just came back. The lights were just sort of dimming, and I just got my iPhone and put it through. So that's the back face of the tank. I've just added that rock there on the left. So I can add some more corals in. So it stopped.
Yeah, I've just added another one for you. Just 1 second. There you go. That one. That's another one you sent me.
Oh, that's just the other side. That's the same back. It's my back panel. The right-hand side of the back panel. Just going around now to the right panel. So just I've spaced out the corals. Just find a bit of space. I've drilled into the rocks. They're all up on pegs so that you get flow all the way around the corals. So they really like it. You can see the sea.
It's lovely and open. That it's amazing.
Yeah, And then I've added a few bits rocked in the middle because initially I had 4 islands, and then I added one down the middle. It just meant I could add a load of coral. So you'll see the ones higher up in the middle. There's one there. So that's the middle islands, and they're just higher up. So the scape goes lower down and higher up into the middle of the tank, and the same on each side. So you can see most of the corals from most of the sides.
Mm.
Yeah, just sort of space them out. And then if I find that there's a bit of a space somewhere, I can put, there'll be a hole drilled in it somewhere, or I can drill one and then put a little peg in and raise it up. There's some of Christian's frags from Signature Frags.
I was just about to ask you, where do you tend to get your corals from, Mo? Play that again. Okay.
So, well, funny, I went there. Yeah, that's where I was yesterday. So you go to Aquatic Emporium. I don't know if you guys know about Aquatic Emporium.
No.
Hidden little shops, quite a small shop. So I call her Sue. I think her name's Zue. Some of you guys around the Swindon area will know. It's shop in Shepperton, and she gets the most amazing corals. SPS, she's got a lot of SPS. It's quite a small shop, really, but she gets a lot of stuff, and it's a bit of a secret, really, amongst SPS guys. Yeah, just let it out of the bag.
Yeah, not anymore.
Right.
No more pretty sticks for you. They're all gone.
Everybody's there this afternoon.
They're raiding it.
Yeah. So what the guys will be saying, "Shut up, Mo! Shut up! Shut up!" But no, and AAC. Those are the 2 places.
Okay.
And then if it further up north,
I thought it might be. It's the one that Baby Days refers to as the crazy Chinese.
That's the one.
Yeah, yeah. He has mentioned it before. To me.
I was with her yesterday, so I said I'd mention it, and I have.
Good looking sticks.
She is great. Everyone who knows Sue, she knows she's fantastic with SPS. You will get the best corals.
Wow. Are they all they're all Indo, I'm assuming.
Yeah, a lot of these are Indos. You could tell. Well, actually, if you know where they come from by the bases, and I don't take all the bases off. Most of the bases are still on, because I drill into the base and peg them, so you can tell which ones they are. But you can see, that some of them will lose color before they color up, and some of them will just hold color, and some of them will get better. Just depends how they ship, but they generally ship pretty well. That one came in a bit brown, but I just saw the tips when I first bought it, and it's got green yellow tips. Nice millie there.
There's something a bit exciting though when you do get a browned out coral and you're not sure what it's going to turn into, as long as it doesn't go to snow white overnight.
Well, the best thing I got talking about it was listening to Leo's Reef. I got a green coral, which when you look top down, you think, well, a bit of potential.
Yeah.
And so I got when you look down on it, it's difficult to get a picture of it because of the angle. But Leo was talking about the Dalt Wisney.
Yes,
so one of those Indo corals is a Dalt Wisney, and it came in green, but it's got pinks and oranges and purple tips, and it came in green. So that's that was a pleasant surprise. And there was one there that looks like a fox flame that you just saw. That was an Indo coral, which you don't see. You don't see, but that came in a bit red, and it's just starting to get yellow tips. And I don't know. It might not be. I call it like a. You can't call it if you reverse the letters, it's still fox flame, but like Dalt Wisney, there are a few, and you'll see the home wreckers and the whatnot. So they do look fairly similar, but obviously you've not got lineage on them and whatnot. Those are some of Christian's frags, a few of the tenuous. Yeah.
Talking about lineage, are you fussed about lineage? Does it matter to you? Are you bothered?
No, it's nice to see. It's nice to see. If you get the original Big R Walt Disney, it's nice to see. Okay, I've got the original. This is what it looks like. Tank conditions, different nutrient levels will give you slightly different colors. Yeah. And then if you see another coral that you got an Indo, and you see, oh, actually, it looks the same. It's reassuring that actually, that's the part of the ocean it came from. Yeah. Because they all came out of the ocean. So lineage is nice because you know what you're getting. So when I buy signature frag, I know what colors Christian gets. I know what I should be aiming for. there or thereabouts. If I can get somewhere close to it, that's you're there or thereabouts. Whereas you don't really know with the bigger corals what it's going to look like or what it's going to be. You think it's going to be this, and you buy 3 different ones with various slightly different colors, and they will end up the same. Whereas when you buy them from like Christian, he's got some of the Bali shortcakes are slightly different colors, and you buy them because they're slightly different, and they are slightly different. And when you do that with a colony, it's not different; it's the same. And so it's nice to have a bit of a combination. And the other thing I've noticed, credit to Christian, is what he used to say, is they're more hardy. They grow faster. They can take more of a swing. So in my opinion, Aussies, leave out the Malaysian corals. Aussies are more difficult to get going, the wild ones. Indos are in between, and properly cultured frags are easier. Not everyone, there are some difficult ones, but they're just easier to get going. So in some ways, yes, you might pay more for a more expensive frag, but you look at 6 months, 9 months in, it's probably bigger than the little colony that you got.
Or still alive.
Yeah, or that, so you have to allow for all of those things. So yes, I think choose your weapon, but don't think, oh, that frag's a bit expensive. So you get a good quality, high colored frag. In 6-9 months a year, you'll have a decent sized colony and it'll be nice. Whereas you might be 60% with the Indos that you get in, or if your tank's stable, you get more. But so it's a balance, and I don't mind having a mix of them. The only thing is, in my size tank, you saw the little frags. They're quite hard to find in there. And one thing, I came back from holiday, and I've got a lot of urchins in there, and big urchins, and I really prize tenuous frag. I just saw a peg. One of Christian's it was. I just saw my little rod, and I had them quite sort of spiked up in that group that you saw in the middle. It's right in the middle, nice green, orange, and pink polyps. And I looked in there, and there's a gap. There's just the acrylic rod, and there's something missing. I was like, oh, what's that? You look around, where is it underneath? So a few days, I just thought, oh, maybe it was just something that I just mounted, and it's fine. It's okay, I'll get over it. And then like 2 days later, I was in bed, and I thought, oh, it's that frag. I got straight up middle of the night. It's like looking torch, and I saw it under a different car. It was dead.
I thought you were going to tell me the urchin had took it on a bit of a road trip around the tank.
Dumped it the other side of the tank.
Oh,
yeah. The urchin, it wraps itself sometimes around to get the algae off. But if you glue it hard enough, that it's fine. Nothing happens. But this time, it happens to be when I was away, and bang that. That's my prize frag as well, right in the middle of that cluster. There you go.
Oh dear.
So it's things happen.
They do. We'll come back to you in a second, Mo. Sam,
sure.
Thanks for that. Sam.
Yes.
I've got to put you on big screen. Everybody sees it on the YouTube. that tank just looks insane, mate. It really is looking good. Yes, mate. It's amazing. How is it at the minute? Anything to report?
It's all kicking along pretty well. I did commence the process of trying to get everyone's favorite fish, the chromis, out this week. I tried to pull all my chromis and anthias out and failed pretty dismally. So I'll try again next week. And before you think that I'm going to get rid of the chromis, I'm going to get rid of these chromis and get new chromis in. These guys I've had for, I think, about 13 years now. That school. And they're monsters. They're big. They're aggressive now. And whenever I try to add any sort of nice, like I tried to add like a blotchy anthea, they just bully the buggery out of it. So I got to get those chromis out and get a nice juvenile school in there, and maybe get some nice antheas and wrasse and things at the same time. So that's probably my focus for the next couple of weeks, is to try and catch those pesky chromis and get them out of there.
What's the method?
What is to catch?
No, I was just about to ask, what's the method? What's the plan?
So I've got an acrylic trap. It's just a box that just goes up in. I just sit it up in this corner here, and you can put food in it. They go on it, and I basically sit here at our dining table just with the fishing line. And as soon as they're in there, I just pull it. Door comes down. I tip the box up, scoop whatever for my catch is, put it into the tub, reset it, wait for the next catch. But
are they easy to catch?
It's Murphy's Law, isn't it? Whenever I've caught other fish, the chromis are in and out non-stop, And I've always said, oh, if only I wanted to catch the chromis. Now I want to catch the chromis, and they're pretty gluey. I got 5 or 6 of them out the other day, and I was catching them in between doing a few other things, and I didn't think I'd had them in the tub of water here on the dining table for that long until my daughter came home from school, and she was like, "Are these fish dead?" And I'm like, "No, they're fine." And then I sort of looked and went, "Ooh, they're not dead, but they're not far off, and I might put them back in the tank." And they were fine. They looked pretty shell-shocked for an hour or so, but yeah, then they're fine. So now they're just taunting me. They're swimming around saying they've survived once and they're never going on that trap again.
Other than them being a bit boisterous, do you have any other issues with them? Do they lay a lot of eggs? Do you have them? No?
Look, yeah, they do sometimes. I don't mind that. I want a reef. I don't want a museum piece. So if nature's going to do nature, so be it. I absolutely love chromis. I love them swimming through the big colonies. I love the color and movement. I love the contrast to the tangs and the other big fish. Absolutely love them, but I've had this same sort of fish in this tank now for a while, and I've got a little bit of an itch to scratch, and I really want to try and get some nice wrasse and things. And I've tried wrasse a couple times, and the chromis in there they just play full turf wars with them. So I've got to make a change and get them out and swap them over some little juvenile guys and start again.
Are you going through any level of QT with them? Have you got anything in plan there, or you?
No.
Just literally right. Plop and drop. Bob says, "Okay, fair enough."
Yep. No, I've never, and I think we may have talked about it on some other episodes. It's not that I don't think QT is a good thing. I don't have. I mean, we talked before about how time poor I am. I don't have the time, skills, or knowledge to really quarantine to the level that I think quarantine should be done. And I feel like it's one of those things, you either do it properly or don't do it at all. I feel like if you do it incorrectly, you're just making things worse. And I feel like I would absolutely fall in that making things worse category. So, that being said, there's some caveats to that. I'm very selective with the fish I buy, where I get them from, the suppliers they've got them from, see them eating, see them healthy, watch them for a while before adding them to the tank. And I'm also fairly selective. Chromis is probably the most risky fish I would add to the tank with uranema risk and things like that. But other things like Achilles tangs or any sort of powder tang and things like that, I don't even try, because I'm like, they're disease magnets. I've never, as far as I know, I've never lost a fish in all of my time of reefing through disease. It's definitely never been any sort of white spot outbreaks or velvet or anything like that. So that's, I'm sitting at a wood table, so I'm safe to say that and touch the table. But it's a calculated risk.
Do you run ozone UV? Anything like that?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I run a decent sized UV on the system. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where I think it does. I feel like there's probably 3 schools you can fall into. The school that, see no evil, hear no evil, say no evil. You just completely ignore that disease exists. Or you can go sort of the other side of that and say that my tank is going to be 100% disease free, and I'm going to quarantine every single thing via these methods and ensure that nothing ever touches the tank that hasn't been out of unquarantined water for X number of days, all to that level. Or you get to the point where you go, okay, disease may get through, I'm going to manage it rather than try to eradicate it.
I think that's a common misconception that everybody thinks of just fish as QT. They don't even think about the cleanup crew and everything.
Absolutely. Else. Everything. Yeah. Your corals, cleanup crew. If you get natural salt water, you got to let that sit. If you do this, it just, it's
not only that. If you in my work operating in theatres, you have to have positive pressure so that if you go into an environment, everything's going outwards, not going inwards. Mm-hmm. And the reason for that is infection risk. And if you're looking at microbes or whatever you're looking at that are going to cause your disease, and you're going to properly quarantine, you can't just have a room and think you're quarantining. And we've said, you might get a splash, you might contaminate instruments, but actually the air is contaminated unless you positively pressurize it, which nobody's going to do. So it's very, very, very difficult to do it in most people's eyes, but it's even more difficult than that, to be honest. So Yeah. So I mean, and you'll hear stories where I quarantined it for 6 months, and then I did this and I did that, and then
it's not just that, but you don't even know what's on these half the time, do you?
You don't know. You don't know.
Exactly.
So yeah, practically, it's extremely difficult in the hobbyist forum to be able to reliably do it. This is why I was asking about ozone UV, because when I set up my first tank, I got a white spot outbreak 15 years ago.
Yes.
And then I put ozone and UV on, and I never, for all those years, introducing all those fish, I never got white spot again. It was just the first time. And in this tank, I did it right from the start, and I've not had the same. I've lost a couple of fish to when you put them in and they're a bit small and you've got big solar tanks and whatnot.
Aggression and things,
but no disease. And I think it's ozone UV personally. I mean, there might be other downsides theoretically that people talk about, but so far I get nervous when I switch my UV off. Put it that way.
Wow. Yeah, UV I think is particularly for the path I choose where I'm managing it. I think it is super important because as we touched on, I'm a firm believer of there will be disease in the tank or things like a white spot or something like that. And my challenge or my goal is to stop it becoming an outbreak, is to make sure that it's not in plague proportions so the fish can get through it, get healthy and move on. Otherwise I feel like it's trying to raise a small town and say that there's no cold or flu in this town. It's like, well, it's pretty difficult to manage that. I'd rather just have things in place so if someone does get a cold, we're not all going to die. It's all right.
Almost like giving your tank a stronger immune system, in a sense.
Yeah, that's a positive spin to put on it. Yeah, give them a little exposure to it and toughen them up.
So back to the fish then, you're thinking of swapping. You mentioned a couple of names. What's on the list? Anything that's...
to be honest, the list is pretty open. So I'll pull... I've only got 4 amphias in there. So the 4 amphias will come out. The 20 or so chromis will come out. Another 20 chromis will go in. I'm assuming at this stage they'll still be blue-green chromis. Amphia-wise, I'm open to trying some things. The store I help out on Saturday's got a really pretty school of golden amphias at the moment, which are super, super tempting. But
nice.
They're a $200 fish, and I'd want 20 of them. So,
is that with your staff discount?
Well, yeah. I'd probably maybe get a little discount on that, but
wow.
When the store owner's your friend, you don't want to cut him to the bone too much. I want to make sure he gets a good deal out of it too. So I don't know. I'm tempted on those, but yeah, that's a big chunk of change. So I'm not sure. Maybe somewhere in between. I've never really had many wrasse before in any of my tanks. I have had a feminist wrasse once before that ended up getting bullied by a hog fish, which was a bad choice to put in. But I'd love to get a feminist wrasse again, and there's some really pretty wrasse that I've never kept before. And when I've tried to add some pretty wrasse to this system before, the chromis just rub their hands together and go to war. So it's just a part of the hobby that I haven't ventured much into yet, and I'd like to be able to give it a try.
Cool. Well, if anybody watching from home if anybody watching from home has got any suggestions for Sam of what he should be putting in his tank fish related,
definitely,
please drop it in the comments and I'll throw it up. Sorry, Mo, what were you going to say then?
I was just going to say, do you see many feminists anymore? They used to come in quite a lot back in the day.
Definitely not as often as we used to. Yeah.
Nice fish.
We used to get, when I say we, my local fish shop would get maybe 20 of them once a year. When they were available, we'd get a decent chunk of them. But I got to say, I don't think I've seen any for the last 4 or 5 years.
Difficult to keep as well, and they jump. So I remember historically trying them and then just giving up, even though they were available. We just thought, they keep long term.
The one I've had previously, I did have for like a year, so I was pretty comfortable with that. And he only went because Hogfish decided he looked too similar and wanted to go after him. But whether it be a feminist or something else, there's a lot of pretty wrasse out there that even some of the non-rare ones are just gorgeous. That
look at the super males. If you get a pair, they really are amazing.
Yeah.
But I haven't covered this tank, so I haven't really got any of the nicer ones. But if it was covered, RASes just make a big difference to the tank. So yeah,
definitely.
Well, I've got to ask. We've got to talk about the smallest but the newest tank in the room. Josh, what's happening? You're quiet there, sat in the corner. What's happening, man?
I'm
I
just
know you're
happy
lapping it all up, listening away.
Yeah,
What's happening?
exactly.
What's
yeah,
happening
I've
with
been-
the? Give us a bit of a tour of the Laguna. What's the latest on the Laguna?
There's been a few more. Has there been a few more corals going since last week? I don't know if there has or not. Actually, yeah, we took that. I did a water change on it's a couple of days back now, and I took the center rock out. It was the rock that was part of the previous escape from the XL200. So it was a nice seasoned bit of rock. I left it in there just because I thought it might add to the biodiversity a little bit, help keep the tank from having its ugly stage. But the more I looked at what is the final aquascape, the more I looked at it, I thought there's enough biodiversity on there. You can see a lot of life living in amongst it now. So I just thought there's no real purpose being served by that piece of rock. We know how fast bacteria can multiply and replicate. So I just thought the rock has been in with seasoned rock for about 4 or 5 months. So the reality is there's going to be a good covering across the rock, and we'll have a pretty stable biome. So I just thought we'll take that piece out and we'll allow the rest of the rock work to develop. And it just allows me to then look at the tank in the sort of from the point of view of how it's going to look moving forward. So then when I'm getting corals and I'm placing things and I'm trying to dial the flow a little bit better to make sure that the different areas are getting the right level of flow that I want, the light and things like that. It just meant that I could sort of focus on the end goal rather than going, well, we're still in that sort of transition phase. So I thought, yeah, you know what, we'll take that out and we'll just crack on and see where we're going from there. So now it is just a case of adding the corals back in. I cleaned out the dosing pumps the other day, the Versas, flushed them out with some, what do we call it? I can't think what it's called now. Acid.
Citric acid.
Yeah, that's the one. There you go. Citric acid. Flushed it out with some citric acid just to get any sort of crystallization out of the heads. And then a nice bit of RO water. Did that for about an hour. They're nice and clean now. Got some new tubing ready. So we're going to be running the ATI Plus. So not the Pro, the Plus, the 2-part. So that's set up and ready to go. At the minute, again, there's not enough coral in at the minute to justify it. The water changes each week are doing enough to keep it stable. I think we're knocking around, I think, about 7.8 pH or KH, I should say. So I know that we're fairly stable, so I'm not concerned about adding the dosing on yet. But as soon as a few more corals go in, I know that it's going to happen. And once if it's ready and sat, you know, waiting to be turned on, it is just a case of turn it on, we keep the stability, and sort of away we go. So yeah, things are ticking over quite nice and simply. I got a couple of mangroves the other day. They're sat in the freshwater tank, which had a rescape. They're sat in there at the moment, but I got some sort of like aquatic soil and that you use for fresh water, and I'm going to plant them in that for now, leave them on. I've got a south facing window, so it's sun all day. So I'm going to leave them on that windowsill for a couple of months, let them really grow out, and then give them a sort of month transition over to salt water before they go in the back of this tank in a little sort of like aquaponics basket, or hydroponics basket, I should say. So they'll go in the back of there. They won't do much, I don't think, for nutrient reduction because they're quite a slow growing plant, but they add a little bit of, you know, another dimension to the tank, a little bit more natural to it. Obviously, this is a smaller system, and with it being a lagoon, in terms of what it brings to the eye in the room, it's quite narrow. So having something else going on above it, we were talking about putting a shelf above it with some plants, and I just thought, why don't I just have a plant growing out of the tank, and it gives you more of a visual effect, makes it. And we have a lot of plants in our living room anyway, so it sort of helps bring the tank into the room. And I know, Sam, you were doing your live video the other day with, I can't remember the name of the fella you had on for the tank tour.
Oh, he's forgot. Oh, go on.
if it was last week, was it Blake?
It was only about 2 days. Possibly, yeah. It's about 3 days ago, I think it was.
Oh, then it could have been Theo. Theo was yesterday. Blake was the week before.
Oh, there we go. He's pulled it back.
Yeah, it would have been. It would have been
yesterday.
Look
that up.
It was yesterday or the day before. Yeah. So I was, and obviously he was talking about how he had the end part of the cabinet because it was a Cade aquarium, I think it was, wasn't it? He had that on the tank to make it look like part of the room, and that's obviously part of the reason I'm going for the mangroves, because again, it's going to help bring the tank look like it's part of the room rather than before where we had a big sort of canopy over it and it looked a little bit obstructive on the eye, shall we say? So,
But
yeah,
Josh, you do like to tinker, don't you, with tanks?
I love to tinker with tank. Well,
You
it
love
wouldn't
to
be
tinker with tanks.
it wouldn't be a hobby if you weren't tinkering with your tank. Let's be
Well,
honest.
that brings me on to a question I was going to ask everybody this morning, and you, the audience watching at home. In terms of husbandry, then, in tinkering, how much time a week do you spend on your tank? Do you think you can spend too much time on it?
How much do you how long do you think I'm spending on this tank a week, realistically?
I reckon your hand goes in that tank at least every other day. Moving something, cleaning, because your tank, your old 170 on Instagram, I'm sure everybody has seen it. It was immaculate in terms of, I'm talking about the algae, the glass.
Cleanliness, yeah.
Cleanliness, thank you, yes.
Yeah.
So, I reckon you put your hand in that tank probably every day.
Probably. Well, if it's not the hand, it's an implement, shall we say? Yeah.
Now we know the secret
Sunday
sauce.
morning.
Yeah. Should be a Friday night. This one. No, I would say that something goes in the tank every day. If I'm not changing out the filter media, well, the filter media, like the pads and things. Cumulative time spent on this tank a week, I would say, doesn't cross an hour and a half. If that, because it literally is a case of I'll change out. I've got a sponge, a layer of sponge, a layer of floss. So the sponge catches the larger particles, the floss catches the smaller particles. Just allows the floss to not clog up as quickly. So you get a little bit longer time. So you get maybe 24, 48 hours between change outs. I'll do that. That takes all of 2 minutes. And then I'll go and rinse the other ones out under the tap, leave them on the windowsill to dry. That's a 2-minute job. And then every 2 days, I'll go around and wipe the inside of the glass with a floss pad or with the scraper. Again, 5-minute job. And that's literally, and then just feeding. So I'm just dumping a little bit of Min-S in at the moment, just to sort of keep the corals fed, the inverts, things like that. A little bit of Hikari pellets, just to keep if there's any, there's not enough algae, it'll keep the hermits and the snails and things like that happy, and the shrimps. And that is literally it in terms of day-to-day maintenance. And then we're doing a water change, and water change is where it takes 10 minutes to set a water change up for me. And then it probably takes double that to actually do the water change. Yeah. And then maybe 5 minutes to wash everything down. So you're talking no more than an hour for a water change a week. Wow. And that's the thing. Like that again was part of the reason for the tank, wasn't it? It needs to be simple. It needs to be easy to maintain. And if you're doing an hour's worth of work on it a week, that's easy to maintain. And if someone's got a busy life, it's what you're after. Whereas your water, how long does a water change take on your big tank?
Me, honestly, for me to do it start to finish, and Drip has been with me doing it as my witness. I think it's at least 4 or 5 hours. It's just but I'm including making the RO, testing, keep going, and because you're doing such a large volume in one go, you're constantly testing the TDS. Well, I do anyway. Every time I go in the garage, I'm like check the TDS. Then mixing it.
TDS in line.
Yeah, I've got an inline. But I'm just old school. I've just used the pen. I've got literally a glass out of the kitchen that I have in the garage. I'll just rinse it, and use the TDS pen. Because I've just had so many issues with silicates in the past with the tank. It was mainly from the man-made rock, but
What was the worry about silicates? We'll get onto that in a bit. But...
so I'm not going to do a Rodders with you because it's his birthday today, and if he is watching, I'll watch it back. Happy birthday, Ian! We hope you have a great day. Sorry, I didn't do a shout out for you. But yes, I've had a few issues.
I've been doing silicates all my time in reefing, silicates, and they're overrated. But I won't go into it. Don't worry.
Sam, husbandry, how much time do you spend then? Josh does an hour? You're going to beat that, I'm sure, that with that masterpiece behind you.
Easily.
Depends which way you mean by beat. More or less, you think?
Definitely more.
Definitely spend more time.
Honestly, hand on my heart now, I would say it'd be considerably less. I think I'd spend cumulative 30 minutes a week on this tank at the moment.
Wow.
Bearing in mind, that's not including if I get some new bit of whiz-bang gadgetry that I've got to do a review on. It normally equates to many hours that week, tinkering with the tank. But on any given week, maybe I'll clean the glass once a week. I'll feed the fish each day. That's it.
Wow. Few questions from people in the audience. One for you, Sam Immers. Good morning, Immers. Thanks for joining us. Do you still have 3 Australian stripies? Do they nip on any corals?
Yes, no, and yes. The 3 stripies that I had, I did take out. They got a bit big. I don't actually think they had started nipping on corals, but it was when I was having some issues with my hammers, and I suspected them of being a known coral eater, and you start having trouble with LPS. Plus, they were big; they weren't eating Aptasia anymore, so they got given the boot. Only to find the hammers were still struggling a little bit once they were out, and my Aptasia numbers exploded. So probably made the wrong choice in getting them out. So I put one back in, as in a new one, and he's maybe doesn't quite have the Aptasia numbers as under control as the trio did before, but he's doing enough. Yeah, to answer your question, no, the three I don't have anymore. I do have one back in. Do they nip corals? Yeah, they will eventually.
Okay.
What sort of corals?
They're not too picky, but I mean, they will go for your typical things that all of your reef safe with caution fish will go for. Your acans, blastos, trachophilias. Then they might go on to other, anything that's bright and meaty. They'll get onto pretty quick. I haven't really seen them give two hoots about SPS, but they do smash an Aptasia, and they do it without you ever really seeing it. It's crazy.
Wow. Talking about smashing, morning, Sharon and Tommy. It'll be good. Happy Sunday to you. A few more people have joined us in the comments. Melinda's saying she spends 3 minutes on her tank a week. There we go. Thanks for joining us, Melinda. Hope you're good, love. Let's have a look here. Gaz is saying stability is king. Oh, that's an excuse for not doing any husbandry. Just leaving it alone. Good excuse, Gaz. Good excuse. Melinda's also saying her striper eats hammers.
Yeah.
There we go. Okay.
Doesn't surprise me.
Mo, what do you spend on your masterpiece behind you in the other room? How much time a week do you spend tinkering with that? Any idea?
Well, it varies. No idea. My wife says too much. I do the same as you guys. So every couple of days, I've got 4 paints to wipe now, but I wipe them down. Usually a couple of days. Feed every time so I tend to come back home lunchtimes. I do a feed, then I do one in the first thing in the morning, and when I get back from work, and one in the evening. So I space those out so that they don't take long. And then it's the only thing is the unpredictable thing, coral's fallen over, or that one needs to move a bit, or so that's unpredictable. That'll change. Some days I don't even look in the tank. So if I've got a long day at work, nothing happens. I just make sure the tank gets fed. Everything else, as I was setting up, was on autopilot, so it's probably less than you'd think. And then at the weekend, it's usually, does that coral look all right? Is that fallen over? So there'll be a couple of hours at the weekend, really. I don't do water changes, so I save that time. I top up the calc tank I've got is a big 400 litre, and then I've got an RO tank as well, and that's about 450 as well. So that'll last me 2 weeks, and I've got a big commercial RO with 50 litres of DI resin. So that's what you need, Tom.
That'd be expensive to replace the resin. 50 litres.
Right. Yeah, so basically I got, you can get the big 25 litre tall things.
Yes.
I initially had 11 litres, and then I was just reading, I was talking to, when I was doing the moonshiner stuff, and there's a lot of talk about DI resin and so I just thought, well, silicate, you don't really want silicates in your RO because that's, why? So you put a load of DI resin in, you won't get silicates out. And for my system, actually, it's overkill. But I haven't changed my DI resin since.
No, that's the thing. It's not overkill because it doesn't go to waste. It just means you change it less frequently. So
which is even in my system is probably more than a year.
Nice.
And I've got the inline TDS. I know TDS out of the first cylinder, TDS out of the second. As soon as I start getting a reading out of the first, I'll change the second, put it into the first, and renew the second one. Yep. So they're in the big 25 litre DI resin, but I haven't had to change it. I've got the pumped system, so it's a noisy pump. But I do that every couple of weeks. I fill up both tanks at the calc, and then I dump a bit. I was dumping Kalkwasser into the calc reservoir, but I've slowly moved over to RO, and I've got a Kalkwasser reactor, and I put two. You can't see them actually. You can see them this side. Where am I? There. So those are just fans They're really nice fans actually, and they blow over the water. And my evaporation over the summer compared to since I put those on, I get about 50 liters a day evaporation.
Yeah, nice.
Which is more actually more than 50, is about 70. And I dose that half and half. I was dosing Kalkwasser and RO half and half, and then I've got them on the DOS pumps, and I just adjust whether I want straight RO into the tank or whether I want a bit more calc depending on the alk level. Yep. But now what I've done is I put them both going through the Kalkwasser reactor, and that's at the moment still too much. So now what I've got is one going into the RO and one going to the Kalkwasser reactor. My alk and everything is bang on stable, and then I just dose a certain amount of bicarb. And that's all automated. And then I've got your Neptune, so that sorts all that out. I've got the NP, which kind of, it's interesting actually following along the NP, because what I didn't realize before, I just thought your nitrates sort of drift. They might drift up, or they actually cycle. So if you look at your NP, they go up, and if you do a heavy feed, it'll go up the next day, and then if you do a normal feed, it'll just drop down the following day, and it's got a cycle on it, which I never knew.
Wow, that's interesting.
And then your phosphates are a bit more, treat the phosphates like your fluoride or your whatever you dose, treat it like that. So that's why I do lanthanum, because you can adjust it, you can fine tune it rather than dump a load of GFO in there. I can dose my lanthanum, and I know exactly what my phosphate level will be, and I can track it on the NP as well. And it's a shame the company that went bust, what were they called? Smart Reef, was it? The Polish company that went bust.
Reef Factory.
Their smart tester, I really relied on their phosphate smart tester. It was absolutely fantastic. And then so that's knocked me back a little bit, because that was bang on. Every so often you can, test your phosphate. That was just a daily check. So I would just adjust lanthanum based on that. But now, a year and a half in, I know exactly how much lanthanum my tank takes, and I can just set it on a Kamoa and run it. And it's, so it's kind of everything's hands off now, and it's just because of the planning.
Seeing as you've brought us onto the PO4 conversation, Sam, Mo, what levels are we running at? I know people probably be thinking this watching at home.
My levels at the moment, to be honest, I normally try to keep things around about 0.2 ppm phosphate. I've been lazy with my GFO. I've let it go for quite a while now. It's up to 0.4. Haven't seen any side effects.
Wow.
0.4. Yeah. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Years ago, you just wouldn't have dreamt of that. It'd be like 0.04.
It's one thing I've picked up from the number of tanks I've seen over the last couple of years. All of these incredible tanks I see, and I get sort of go through all the equipment and the fish and corals and things they got, and then the maintenance they do, and then we talk parameters at the end. And just about every system I've seen that's maybe not brand new, if it's been around for a year or two or more, their nutrient levels, both nitrates and phosphates, are much higher than you'd expect, and their tank looks incredible. So I've taken a small leaf out of their book and have just been a little less conscious about it. And I mean, we talk about not chasing numbers, but I would say for the last 10 plus years, I probably have chased numbers with nitrates and phosphates. So I've just decided just to not turn a complete blind eye to it, but just stress a little less about them and just monitor things to see how they go.
Do you think there's a relationship with that, though, and those sort of parameters and the tank's maturity as a system in general? Would you say?
There is. I mean, there's a bit. Obviously, when the tank gets a bit older, there's always some dead spots. There's always detritus sitting somewhere. It builds up and whatnot. But on the flip side of that, you've also got typically bigger colonies of corals that are a little bit more adept at handling those sort of levels and can just got a bit more surface area and a little bit more life in them to process those sort of levels. Where if it's a pretty sterile system and you've got sort of smaller frags in it and you have a big spike in nutrients, they might not like it so much, and your algae might take over. But I must admit, I'd always kept mine probably more at still in the 0.1 to 0.16 sort of range. And if once it hit 0.2 or above, I'd change my GFO out. But yeah, the big trend that I've seen over the last couple of years is tanks with nutrients way higher than you'd expect. And as a result, I'm like, I can learn, I can try and see what it does for my tank. Yeah.
What about you, Mo?
Mine is varied. So here's a story. I've told you this story before, but at the moment, my phosphate levels cycle between 0.1 and 0.2. And when I hit 0.2, I'll dose a bit more lanthanum. When I come to 0.1, I'll reduce it down. So I don't like to let it go less than 0.1. Phosphates, they're currently about 15. And my phosphate now is 0.15, and my nitrates, are 15. And I don't like to let them go lower than 15. So I get a bit nervous because my nitrates, depending on what I feed, they swing between about 30, 35 to about 15. Because I get that much swing, and it can be on a daily basis, if I go to 15 and it goes the other way, I might bottom out my nitrates. So as my coral colonies start growing bigger, that swing might happen more, because I suspect that the corals will be taking up a lot more nutrients. Now I've got a sulfur reactor, which is why I can do that. So I can dump in loads of food, and I've run the sulfur bees just on their limit. So I probably need a little bit more, but it'll bottom out my nitrates a bit more. So then I'm more reliant on feeding. Whereas at the moment, I can dump it in, push my nitrates to 30, leave it a day or feed less, and it'll drop to 10. Yeah. So that's what I mean about cycling the nitrates, right? And it might be partly because of the sulfur reactor. Now, when my tank, I had a crash from a sea hare. So I was always told to be careful about sea hares, but they're so good at taking out algae that I had the sea hare, and I probably left it in too long. And then one day it looked like it was dead. I picked it up with the tongs instead of netting it out. It let out this black stuff.
Oh.
And my tank was at that stage 3/4 full of SPS.
Oh.
And it was my birthday, actually. So well, I came back. I came back Thursday morning, saw the thing, took it out, saw the black stuff. Thought, oh yeah, it'll be fine. Big water volume. Went to work, came back, SPS stripped. Over the next 3 days, all of them stripped except one coral, which actually I still got. So they all stripped, and I couldn't see a single thing wrong except that I did that. Anyway, that happened, and then my tank went through a cycle as well. So clearly it wiped out something. And and then I got algae, I got dinos, I got blah, blah blah blah, all of that. I let it run through, but I watched my phosphates go up, and I watched my nitrates go up, and my nitrates ended up going up to 200, and my phosphates went up to 2. And then I left it like that, thinking, what shall I do? I didn't have any filters, and that's the time when I was talking about sulfur reactor. And I mentioned it on the stream as well, and Ian saying, oh yeah, I've used sulfur reactors, great. So I did set one up, and my nephew just asked you a question on the Immers, was just on there, and you've got his tank video. He's the one who set up the sulfur reactor, and then I followed suit, and it is brilliant. Anyway, a different story. So I went through that cycle, went through all the algae stage again. It's like setting up a new tank. Then I started restocking, and I was restocking nitrates of 200, phosphates of 2, and then the algae disappeared. I only had a few corals in there, just testers again. Algae disappeared, and everything was pristine clean. The rocks, everything, and coralline was going crazy. Corals were really good. I had to whack my lights up because my nutrients are high. So I did realize that I had to have a really intense light to get colors coming through. But the SPS, I could put them straight. I could get a coral from Sue, whack it straight at the top, right under the light, wouldn't bat an eyelid. And then so I didn't have to acclimatize them. I didn't have to do anything. So that was one thing. And then it'd eventually color up, but I needed a lot more light to do it. And then obviously I had to manage heat and whatever humidity in that room. And for some strange reason, I just thought 200 nitrates, the same thing, you start chasing numbers. And now looking back, I shouldn't have done it, because I wouldn't have had a sulfur reactor. I wouldn't have had to use lanthanum. I would have just had corals, a skimmer, and pumps. And the tank was doing so well at the time. Maybe the offset is that the lighting was higher. And the corals were behaving just like they do now. They were like bulletproof, and they were growing really fast, coloring up nicely. And I just thought, oh, okay, maybe I can, I'll get a bit more color out of them if I drop the nitrate. So I put a sulfur reactor on, did all that, lanthanum, worked out the doses, dropped the nutrients down. And now I find I had to reduce my lights, because I've got a lot of lights, as you guys know. My PAR levels when I was measuring them was 800, 1,000 in places. Now they're more about 500, 600, maybe 700 in a few spots. And that's for LEDs, they're very fierce. So, it's not like having a halide. I had 800, 900 par in my old tank, but with metal halides. And they're just a bit more gentle, I suppose. Maybe they're a bit more, you measure the same par, but they just seem to behave differently. So corals are more tolerant to the lights that I had on T5s and halides. Anyway, cut a long story short, I don't think it matters what your nutrient levels are, and it might be a bit controversial to say, as long as you let your corals adapt to it and you don't have swings. So I treat my phosphate like I treat my alk. I don't like it swinging. I don't really care where it is. You set your alk to 11 and leave it there, it's fine. You set it to 7 and leave it there, it's fine. As long as you leave it there and you don't let it swing too much, it doesn't really matter.
So what would you say then with somebody that was buying a coral, let's just say, or whether it's from another reefer or a shop, how important do you think it is then when somebody's buying it from a different, obviously, water parameters or water chemistry, and then taking it home and their levels might be significantly different when it comes to nutrients? Think that'll be an issue?
Well, like I said, in my experience, when I was having, my old tank, I always used to acclimatize. I'd have them on the floor of the tank. So when my nutrients are low, and now 0.1 phosphate, I think, is low, and 10 nitrates is low. I don't think anyone shoots for 0.03, but the lower it is, the more you have to acclimatize. And the higher it is, the more you'll get away with. So you'll hear of some people just say, I just get my corals and I slam them straight under the light and it's fine. And the shops will do the same. But the difference in the shops is that they've got a large volume of corals in a very small volume of space, and they chuck loads of food in when the corals come in, and they're straight under the light, and they're just under the water, just under the water surface, 4 inches. And you look at those and you think, how do they do so well there? So, and in my tank volume, I put loads of corals in there, but compared to the water volume, it's difficult to get the nutrition into the coral because of so much water. So that's the difficulty for me. So now I just, because of my nitrates and phosphates are 0.2 and 20, say, that's still low for my tank, and I need to acclimatize the SPS. Whereas when I was up at 2 phosphates, and I don't know if that was the right, maybe 1 and 100 would have been right, but then I could put them anywhere. So I think the smaller the tank, the more you'll get away with in terms of acclimatization. I think if you're not sure, acclimatize the coral, because it will happen. I don't know which coral doesn't need the acclimatization and which one does, but the only way you'll find out is if it is the wrong way, is that that coral needed to be acclimatized more. So you might as well do it, and you do it for a week or 2, leave them low down, and slowly move them up to your final position. That's the way I do it. But I say that and I think everything's relative. Light versus nutrients versus tank size, that all comes into the equation, and everyone eventually works out where they sit, and they'll know for their tank. But I think it's different for every tank. So to be on the safe side, acclimatize your SPS. That doesn't mean. And here's another thing: I don't drip acclimatize my coral out of the bag and do all of that, because when I buy 10 corals to put in my tank, I haven't got time. So I slice open the bag, dump it straight in the tank. And I have not lost a coral from doing that. But the only one thing I'd say is if you're not sure, start low and move up. This is for SPS. LPS obviously going to go on the floor anyway or nearby. And then give it a few days, a week, 2 weeks. You'll know once you've done it once or twice where you are. But the higher your nutrients, if you run a high nutrient system and you think your tank looks good and you've not got algae problems, don't mess with fluctuating levels. I think it's the fluctuating levels, that instability in phosphate and nitrate, in alk, whatever it is, treat them all the same and keep it stable at whatever level you choose, and you'll be fine. So
Sam's saying 0.4 and you're saying 0.2, are you? Is that what you're going with?
Me, I'm at 0.2. I'm comfortable with 0.2 phosphate. When I let it go, I've had 0.3, 0.4. I've had 2, but 0.2 is a nice. Now my tank's running settled in. 0.2 is about right, and I'll let it go down to 0.1, and I'll start my lanthanum at 0.2, and if it's 0.25, I'll let it go down to 0.1. If I start getting closer to 0.1, I get nervous, because I know that in my tank, if I'm doing 0.05, I might lose a coral. I might lose that. Yes, they'll be a bit lighter, but it'll just overshoot, and it's just getting the nutrient into that coral in that tank volume is not easy. And there'll be a lot of waste trying to get that in, and that might push my nutrient levels up. And I can't, when I can still get that issue when I've got a phosphate that's slightly higher. I can still get a new coral in, and it could still suffer. And I think that's tank volume related. In the bigger tank, getting the nutrient into that coral is more difficult.
Well, it makes you wonder what the used to be I suppose, the issues with keeping SPS. Because I'm talking when I first got in the hobby, if you had any tinge of blue, this is a salifert titration test I'm talking about that we used to use, you were strongly advised not to go near the SPS tray, the LFS. It was like you couldn't have any phosphate, and I'm talking like it was like a bad thing. I cannot believe we sat here with you two gentlemen and amazing tanks, and we're saying 0.4. This is 0.4. This is not 0.04 or 0.02. This is 0.4. So
in my old tanks, the same thing. I started doing KZ, Corallin, which is
I've done that.
now.
Yeah, I've done that. Still got the blue bottles on here.
Right, we were all doing it then, and I was the same. And I would do the ELOS test, and I've still got the reactor, the massive Deltec reactor for the phosphate media, the biggest one. And I used to put a 5-litre bucket in there and try to get and I would measure in 0.03, and I never got it below 0.03. And I used to think that's the machine, that's the tester. And I used to run a bucket of. And all that used to happen is I used to measure 0.03, no difference in my reading, and my SPS would strip. And I'd sit there thinking, why is my SPS stripping? It's not. And I used to think the opposite. It's the high phosphate that'll do it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You think too much. You'd never think not enough. That's what I'm saying. Exactly.
Yeah. We were dosing copper with Zeo as well. Like there was copper in a lot of those additives. Now you would never dose copper.
No.
Oh, well, you say that, but so I don't know if you looked at. If you looked at Reef moonshiners, so I do a variation of moonshiners, and I've got my own cocktails of things, and then I use Reef moonshiners, right? And they don't dose as much copper as the fauna marine one. So I was using the fauna marine as well. In my opinion, they're very, very good, and there are dosing traces are important. Most of us do it. Copper's one that FM dose more than moonshiners because the levels are different. But there's copper in more things than you realize, and bottoming out.
No doubt.
Yeah, well, it's a coenzyme, and so bottoming out copper isn't great. So as long as you've got a little bit, you do need a little bit. And if you've got none and you dose a bit, it's not the end of the world. Whereas we all, Zeospur, it lightens corals, but it might kill them. The other thing that I just realized, I was away on holiday, is I've had a chromium overdose in my tank inadvertently, but it happened, and it does the same thing as copper. So I've had a few corals that I lost, a few tenuis that I lost, two tenuis, and then a couple of corals which were looking nice, but just looking amazing when I got back. And I just thought, it's just because me not tinkering with the tank. And it's actually, I didn't realize until I lost a coral, and then I've got this coral called Below Deck. It's like nice multicolor stag.
Oh, stag, Below Deck, rainbow stag,
that one, So the tip of it just went white and stripped, just the tip.
I cut mine off. Sorry to put in. I had the same problem. I chopped it. I'm talking about the coral here. I know the people. I just know how the minds work in this comment section. And so I cut the tip of the coral off, and because it grown like this little hand, these little stubs that come off, and then it stripped, and it was right at the top of the tank. And I said to Drippy, I said, I'm just going to chop the end off, coral again, and see what happens. And it took months to grow back, but it's literally growing back. And the weirdest thing is now is it's growing back thicker, as in the actual stem. Believe I'm having this conversation. It's growing back thicker than ever before. So sorry to jump in there, but I've got the same coral, and I had the same issue. Yeah.
Did you, when you cut it, do you get like 3 or 4 sprouts?
Yes.
That's what happens on mine. Yes. Yeah, if you cut it, you get 3 or 4 sprouts. Well, this time I tried to cut it, and the whole branch it broke into 2. So, but basically, the tip of that bleached. A couple of corals just went really, like the Zeospur effect.
Yeah.
But it did it in my tank when I got back from holiday, and the only thing I realized was my chromium bottle. I bought a new chromium and selenium bottle, and my chromium bottle's nearly finished, and it's supposed to be doing 2 mils dosing a day of Reef moonshiners, and I'm pretty sure it was doing 20 for about a week.
Ooh.
So, and the effect of it is it's like Zeospur. So some of the corals just went really bright, and a couple went over and stripped. But yeah, so chromium I think has a similar effect, and so I'm pretty sure that a lot of these trace elements do have specific effects. But you've got to be careful. So the point being that yeah, I think you do need a bit of copper, you do need a bit of this, but only a little bit. You don't need to go overboard.
Yeah, I think copper. I think there's enough of that in just exposure through life. I don't think it's something we ever really need to.
Well, some of the foods you're throwing in your tank will have.
Yeah, that's it. Even just the water and through your RODI, through any sort of saltwater mix using foods, through pumps in your tank, you're going to get trace amounts of copper from all of these sort of exposures, and I think that's probably more than
from the electrician visiting. Yeah,
exactly.
Mo, I've got to ask you, there's a couple of comments in here. I think we obviously covered your tank a while ago on the channel. Melinda saying, on that note.
No, go on, sorry.
All right.
The question's coming. Mo left the building.
That's your answer, Mel. He's not interested. No, people are asking if you do a tank tour with Reef and the guy. Reef Rondo and the guys on the Reef AF.
He asked me. He asked me, then it went quiet. So,
yes.
Ron.
Yes.
No, more than happy to. We did a mini one the other time, didn't I? Got my.
We did do a mini one. We did do a mini one. When your Wi-Fi wasn't working, I might add as well.
But I've just had it updated because in that room I didn't have a Wi-Fi extender, and they've just put one in, and I haven't tested it. So,
well, we're all good so far. Don't jinx it. Thank you. Don't jinx it. One of the things I want to talk to you both about with having such big tanks is flow. Obviously, a big advocate of flow, especially with SPS corals. Some can see the water moving nicely behind you. So obviously, as corals grow out, and I witnessed this yesterday. So I've got a Velida frag, a blue Velida that's sort of on the edge of the rock skate on my skate downstairs, and it's grown really, really, really dense. And it's literally, I thought it got plenty of flow in terms of around it, but I think now as a coral grows, it's more of a question as has it got flow going through it? Because what I'm witnessing now, when I took a frag off it for somebody yesterday, and I looked down and I just had that fear of God moment when I'd seen all the little pockets of detritus that had collected in amongst the coral, and it had sort of not causing it to strip, but it wasn't happy. Sort of a bit of that like dead spots, and I don't mean dead spots in terms of flow. I mean as in dead coral spots. So I think it's a good sort of conversation to have because you two obviously got big tanks as well. Sort of what's your thoughts on flow? Choices, equipment, things to do. What do you think people should sort of advice could you give people regarding flow? Who wants to start?
You go first, Mo.
Okay, so flow, you need lots of it. Flow is the most important thing in a tank. All right, you need, especially in an SPS tank, you need lots of it, but you need little amounts. You don't want to hammer a coral directly. So you want to get indirect flow all over the tank, and I would suggest doing it with relatively smaller point sources. So that might be an in-tank pump, it might be a closed loop, whatever it is. But you need lots of different points of flow, and so that generates small spots of random flow that every coral can take. Now, initially, when I did this tank, I know for this tank you needed a lot of flow, and it was kind of a peninsula because it's got 4 sides, and I've only got the back weir boxes, that area to put pump in. So I bought the cannons, and the idea was, and it had flow everywhere in the tank when I set up the rockscape, everything. I was testing it, and it had brilliant flow all over the tank. When I put my corals in, the flow would go from the back to the front and then return through the middle. And that middle canyon had huge amounts of flow, so I put a few smooth skins in there, and they strip. So there's so much flow in there that they would strip. So I had to cut them back. So I cut my cannons back eventually to about 35% now. They're on random between 10 and 40%, something like that each, which is still a huge amount of flow. But I need to break up the linear flow, because if I leave that, the front part of the SPS that are facing the wave, they get a bit discolored. So you can see that it's a bit too much. They're getting battered, and the back end of it is beautiful. So I want the color even and everywhere. And so then I put the sea swells in, and the sea swirls basically
which is oscillating, oscillating. Like
the end of the
like
oscillators. These are the original ones that were made in America, and they've got a very heavy duty rotator on it, so they'll rotate, and it's fixed, so it's heavy duty, but you can't really adjust anything. It's just there, and you do. So I just aligned the pumps, and I put some jabals on there. So Leo will be pleased to hear that. And so I've got 6 jabals, and I've got 3 of them on one side. They go together, so the 3 rotate together that way, and the opposite ones rotate the other way. So it's like a gyre flow, and then it reverse the gyre flow when they swing, and they just swing back and forth like that. And that revolutionized my tank. So that is just next level flow in my tank. So basically, it breaks through the cannon flow and breaks across it. So I'm getting continuous flow going from the back to the front and back again, like that. 2 gyres that way, and then it breaks across. And so you can see the polyps on my tank. They're just all over the place, all the corals everywhere. And then the other thing I did.
Sorry, I think Josh looks like Josh is thinking about getting a cannon for the Laguna. No,
I can see it on his face.
I'm going to put in a big cannon. I'll show them on Instagram. I'm going to put this cannon in the gun.
Yeah.
Sorry, Mo.
Well, what you want to do is get that little Rob got one from East Coast Reefer. This little you put your cannon
3D printed.
Yeah. So that's what you need in your tank, Josh. That'll sort it.
Anyway, I don't have any water left, or maybe even a side pane. It might just.
Well, you just put a slide at the top. You just slide it over, and it just comes back down. So you get one of those.
Yeah. Like a jellyfish tank, but like external. Like one of those ones.
Yeah, that's another thing. A Carlson surge device. I don't know if you guys know what it is, but anyway. So that's the way I did my flow. Initially, it was supposed to be just the cannons, but they were just a bit too with 2 of them in there. It was too strong, but the flow 8 foot across was perfect, but just a bit too, to get enough flow going through. So these going across it now break it up, and it's like I don't need to worry. The other thing I did, we always grow corals. You stick them on the rock, they encrust and they grow, but as they grow, they stop the flow. And particularly in my tank coming back. So I put them on rods. That's the reason I put them on rods, is because now I've got my colony. I've got a rod. I've got a colony up here. It's got 360 flow around it, and the corals love it. And each coral is just floating in water. It's not. There's no rock around it here. Every single coral in my tank has got a space away from the rock, and that not only does that stop the flow being blocked, it's random flow everywhere, and all the colonies get the flow, and I don't need to worry about adding more colonies. Yes, I might need to, increase the cannons back up a little bit, or jabals. But, what I was saying about small point sources is I've got 6 jabals, but they're running on about 30%. And I've got my cannons, and they're running on, they vary between 10 and 40% each. So everything's random, but not full blast, and nothing's getting blasted. So and as the colonies grow, I might bump the jabals up a little bit, and then I've got 2 big Abyss pumps for the return flow, one on each side at the back, and that's my flow. It's done. But basically, yes, it needs to be random, but do it in small bits. You get smaller pumps, but have more of them. Don't whack an MP60 in, or a cannon in Josh's tank. Do it with a smaller pump and lots of them. Yeah. Or get one big main pump to get your detritus out, like a cannon. So like Rob's done it nicely. He's got a cannon going through the back, so the detritus will go, and then he's got lots of pumps distributed along the tank.
And that's where a bare bottom tank does kind of give you that advantage of underneath flow, which I don't obviously get, because I'm a big fan of having a substrate aesthetically more than anything. I just couldn't believe this Velida that I saw yesterday, because I always look at it at eye on or whatever, sort of face on level. Because my tank's built in with a canopy, I'd never get to look down on it that much. So yesterday was probably one of the first times in a while, and I was just shocked at how it's fairly sized colony now. But it's obviously grown in such a way that it's actually prevented it. It's sort of defended itself from the flow that it was originally once getting. And it's got to a point now where it's kind of, not intentionally, obviously, it's sort of hurting itself because it's not getting the flow it should have get. It needs like blasting from above, ironically, not the side. So I'll have to have a look at that. But I think I'm gonna put a couple of the Ocean Sea Waves in that Mark does, or something oscillated to give it a go. I just wish they looked prettier. That's all I'll say. They're gonna look a little bit. I don't know.
I mean, that's why I was resistant to getting the sea swirls on my big tank, because it's a big box. It's a 6 big, I set it up so I've got a nice glass brace. You can see over the top. Radion set up quite nicely. Everything's clean over the top, and now I've got 6 boxes. And as time goes on, those things always clutter, and you got to wire and rewire stuff, and wires hanging everywhere. It's the same thing. But on my frag tank, the same sort of thing. I've put gyres on there just to get the same, fill the tank and run gyres. But gyres are like so good at what they do, but so rubbish 6 weeks later.
Well, yeah, because you
got
have to clean them all the time.
And it's just ridiculous. You open them up to clean them, put them back together, and they never work as well as they did. So I'm just getting a bit fed up with the gyres on my. I think
the thing with the gyres, when you take them apart, you should have some you should mark them to where they are, because when you take them off, you twist them naturally to clean them, and then you forget the angle that they were on before. So then you're right, you put them back in your tank, and then you have to spend however long getting the angle right.
They usually are indicator marks on them, in fairness.
Yeah, no, but what I'm saying is, if you've put them in a position that favours your tank and flow, and then you take them off, you're then gonna have to remember where they were. But anyway.
Have you all got gyres? Do you all use gyres?
I used them previously in the XL200, and I thought they were great for what
the flow's brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think the thing with a bigger tank is you've got the luxury of, when you use a wave maker, there's a lot of runtime for that movement to spread out and cover a larger area. In a smaller tank, you've got that real narrow cone of water, and you'll have a lot of dead spots. And I found that having the gyres meant that I had that real big sheet of movement, and it allowed me to cover a larger area in a smaller runtime. So it was massively beneficial to me. I thought they were great. You're right, Mo, in that you do lose a lot of flow very quickly with them. But I kept a lot of spare cages and blades, so it meant it was very similar to an MP40 wet side. I just whip them straight off, put the new ones on, throw the other ones in some citric acid, and it was a minute. I never cleaned the actual motor because there was nothing on it. I just brushed the algae away from where the blades clipped into, and there was no other.
Go on.
Yeah, there was no benefit to cleaning that, obviously, other than aesthetics. And I have enough cleanup crew and things in there that are constantly moving over everything. Like I have a tuxedo urchin that would clean all of the coralline algae off. So they stayed fairly clean anyway. So yeah, it was a fairly simple process, but they did a fantastic job of providing that large surface area of movement over quite a short run time, which was really beneficial, I thought, in a smaller tank.
Josh, have you been to Sue's Aquatic Emporium?
No.
Go if you get a chance, go and see, not just to buy SPS, but she's just set up David Saxby's closed loop.
Yes.
Yeah. Have you seen the system? So he's got a closed loop. But it goes up and over, and then down. So he's not drilled the base of the tank. And she's done exactly the same thing on a small. It's about a 4-foot tank, 4x2, and then just in the corner you can see these pipes going down. She's buried them under the sand bed, and then they're just multiple points of exit, and it's just a closed loop. Really simple, but you can't see any pumps. It looks amazing, like yours, basically. But you can't see any pumps. And that'll be one way to just look at doing a closed loop off a single jabal, and she's got 6 exit points or something, and there's flow everywhere in that tank, and she's done it on 2 new tanks in there, and it's amazing. That is worth experimenting and looking at.
I think closed loop systems are incredible. I mean, I think it's Swiss Reefer on Instagram where he's got the 4 they're in each corner. And I think he sort of like hides them a little bit with rock and coral, so you can't even see the outlets on the bottom of the tank. But the amount of flow that must provide, and it keeps all of the panes of glass free, I think it's incredible. I do think that there's something that gets neglected, because if not done well, like you're saying, obviously Sue's done it really well. If not done well, it can look quite obtruse and obstructive in the eye.
She's just a 16mm pipe, and it's just under the sand bed, and you can't even see. It's like a little duck nozzle. And you can't even see where it exits. It's just a little tiny rock over it, and in the sand bed, so it's buried. You can see where the pipes go down on the side, but near the weir box. And then it's just got one of those, the thing you put on a return pump, just the slots in it. It's just one of those, and that sucks the water in, and it just jets through the whole tank in multiple areas. And it's the thing that is nice about it. You just don't see any pump heads.
Yeah.
And it's just, so that's worth looking at.
Well, part of me was going. So obviously, I ran the holding system for this. I ran it on a canister filter, an external canister, and the return bar into it was one of those spray bars with all the little sort of holes out of it. And I did look into trying to sort of fit that, so having the canister pump still on and having that fitted, so it was effectively the return nozzle, so it would come out and it would have run straight away across the top of the tank. So again, you wouldn't have had any pumps in there, and it would have just been this thing. It would have been high above the coral level. It would have blended into the back because the black was the same color, so you wouldn't have really noticed it like that. It would have sort of camouflaged itself, and it would have given that sheet effect across the tank. Obviously, it would have been higher up, but again, it was just another way of providing a wide area of flow for very minimal sort of effect on the eye.
You don't hear much about closed loops anymore. When I did the closed loop on my old 8-footer, everybody was like, "Oh, your tank's going to leak," and I was like, "You don't understand how a closed loop works, clearly, because it's not going to leak. The water is not going anywhere." But it's
because historically everyone drilled the base of the tank.
Yeah.
In the US, and they may still do that. But if you drill your base and put a ball valve on it, at some point the ball valve is going to leak. And there was a tank of the month for Reef Central back in the day as well, where actually he changed the ball valve was leaking, so he changed the ball valve. He just took it off, got into his shorts, jumped into his sump or something, a massive tank, and just took the ball valve off his gush of water and just whacked another one on, and had about 20 liters of water, on the floor. So that's the worries. If you get a leak, especially if the tank's in your living room or wherever. That's why they get bad press. But doing it this way, up and over, there's no drilling in your tank. You're not drilled your tank at all.
I think the concern is obviously you've got something drawing water out of the system, and then if you on the return side you have a leak, you're going to spray water around the room and drain your tank down. That could be a concern. Obviously, drilling the tank is it's a similar concept to having an overflow, isn't it? Or like your overflow lines, like the weir, like it's drilled in the bottom of the tank, so the leak risk is the same in effect. But obviously, if you had a disconnect of pipework or a burst of pipework on the return side of it, obviously then you're going to have it drawing out of the main system, and then that return line is going to spray the water wherever it fancies, sort of thing, if it's become disconnected. But how often, touch wood, I don't have anything going outside the tank, but how often do we have pipework that explodes off? We see panes of glass popping off more often than we see pipework popping off. So,
the other thing is doing a wet box. Doing like next year we're having a wet box. So Steve Weiss did that on his new tank. Next to his weir box, he's put another box, and he's put an Ecotech pump in there. It's just a normal return pump with a hole, and so the water drops in over the top, goes down, and just jets this water across the whole of his tank. And he's done 2 of those wet boxes, and he's got no pumps in his tank because he's dead against having that sort of thing. His flow is amazing as well. So there are various ways of doing
workarounds. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
Sam, flowing the masterpiece behind you. What are you using again? I can see some power heads in the back right corner.
Yeah, the idea is that you can't see the power heads, but there are.
Sorry, you can't see them in the back right corner. They're not there. Forget I said that.
to be fair, there's a lot there that you probably can't see. There's 4 MP60s. There's 3 MP40s. There's 2 big Tunzis and 2 Nero 7s. I will be adding some more very soon because the pump placement, or wave maker placement, I should say, was mostly factored around aesthetics and trying to put them in positions where they weren't super obvious. Obviously, still to provide flow. Otherwise, the best aesthetics is to not have them at all. But obviously need flow, so putting them in places where they're going to provide that flow without being a massive eyesore. Obviously now the tank's it's pretty full, and it's choking that flow pretty well, even with that number of pumps. So I have to add more, and I have to get a little creative with how I'm going to best deliver that flow. So I am currently playing with Ocean Sea Wave myself, just to see how I can adapt that into the system to give me that varied flow, but still maintain that aesthetic without being too obvious or looking at a place. Thankfully, doing it now is considerably easier it's easier now than when the tank is near empty. I could put something up behind this colony here, and you won't see it. I could put a nice Tunzi on there, rotating 180 degrees. No one will see it there. It'll be completely behind that coral, and it'll move water both sides of it and along the back of the tank. So that's my plan. Still working through ways to make those fit in as seamlessly as I can. But I agree with Mo. I think that axis of rotation is probably where our flow game can go to the next level. Easier done in a big tank. I'm curious how, Josh. I mean, it's not that you have a small tank there, but
Definitely
putting something.
tank.
No, man, I've seen people attempting like 20-liter reefs before, so that's not small. But trying to put something in there that's rotating, 180 degrees in the tank's probably going to stand out a bit more on your system, and that's where I appreciate your thoughts on the Gaia. I think they probably do work nicely on smaller systems. When you go big Gaias on big tanks, I think they're great at moving water around like the perimeter inch of the tank, and like literally all 4 walls, that outside inch the Gaia will move water, but through the guts of it, where, to be fair, it's probably where 98% of our coral is. I don't think they do that much. So I've never been a fan of Gaias, but like you guys talked about, I hate cleaning pumps, so Gaias are the absolute last choice for me.
There comes a point though with a reef tank where you have to, the aesthetics, you have to sort of, you just have to go with what the tank needs, I suppose is what I'm trying to say, over what you want it to look like. Because there comes to a point where corals need or certain things, and whether you want to put a power head or not there, it needs it.
True. Although it gets to the point, like if I had to make the choice of putting something like a mechanical pump in there or something that didn't look good just to keep a coral happy, I'd trim the coral back. That's the choice I'd make. We talked before about time spent on the tank. I could spend more time, and I should spend more time turkey basting this tank. Because like you touched on before, looking down at your Velida and you saw some detritus settling on there, man, you wouldn't believe the detritus pockets I've got sitting in some of these colonies and some of the rock work in here. When I go in there with the turkey baster, like the tank goes brown, like it's crazy. So it's something I probably should find an extra half an hour a week to do, and maybe I'll try to make that a stretch goal for this year.
I've got 4 or 5 tuxedos, and they carry the substrate around. So the substrate in my DT downstairs is very similar to calcium reactive media. So it's quite heavy, quite big. Again, that was flow. That was decided based on me having, so I could have a lot of flow. So I didn't want to have the gaps in the in sand, etc. And they constantly will carry around pieces of gravel with them at night. And I've got various colonies now downstairs that have had this gravel dropped on them, and then they've grown either over it or around it. So
they're very heavy corals now. They're weighed down.
Yeah, they're weighed down. But I've fragged corals before though, and I think this is just me being a bit of a lemon or whatever. I've fragged corals before, and then they've stripped or they've not been happy because I've fragged them. So when it comes to fragging, I am a little bit cautious. And there's some, like, people go, "Can I have a piece of that?" And I'm like, "I daren't. It's an Aussie table. If I look at it wrong, it's going to strip. If I take a frag off it, I've just got his paranoia, whatever you want to call it."
Is that the one I asked you for the other day?
Yeah, everybody keeps asking for pieces of it.
The story is
you can have anything you want, mate. And I was like, "Oh, about that one?" You were like, "Oh, yeah, that's a table, that." Yeah. I didn't say anything more. I was like, "He doesn't want me touching that."
Somebody asked for a piece of it yesterday. I was like, absolutely no way am I fragging that because it's an Aussie piece. But no, that's fun. But you just go in with the snips, do you? Do you just go in a bit aggressive? Yeah, okay.
Particularly with, sitting on this side of the globe, it's funny when, like, you guys say, "Oh, they're Aussie SBS," they're gonna. If you look at them funny, they're gonna strip. I got this. You probably can't see, but down here, I got this incredible peach-colored. Just here, you won't be able to see it because it is. Oh, you can actually see it there a little bit, just in front of the Space Invader Pectinia there.
Yeah,
it's this peachy-colored, incredibly hairy, wild. It's peach and green. Acro that I picked up yesterday, and I'm like, just chuck it on the ground for now. I'll work out where it goes later. And, like, I didn't even place it. I didn't acclimate it. Just out of the bag, drop it in, landed there. I'm like, it's more than an inch from the Pectinia. It'll be right.
Oh, wow. Well, that was one of the questions I wanted to ask, actually, you and Mo, this morning. Is there any particular corals in the past that either of you have ever struggled with keeping and thought, well, I probably shouldn't have done that, or know why you struggled, or maybe still to this day it's a bit of a myth in your tank, or tank, should I say?
In my previous tank, I had horrible time with Monty caps. I just couldn't keep them.
Really?
Yeah, they'd grow really quick, and then just bang, overnight dead.
Wow.
And
so now you mentioned Monty caps. When I first set up my first big tank, I couldn't keep Monty caps in there either.
yes,
And two things I was told: raise your magnesium.
yes,
So I got magnesium, and I still couldn't keep them. And then overnight, I had dying Montipora, just standard Montipora, and I dosed Lugol's iodine.
yes.
And overnight, literally overnight, they just went bang, and they just went crazy.
Yeah, right.
So I think there's something in Lugol's iodine that Montipora need. Might be iodine. I don't know. But
all Lugol's.
And it's
the iodine.
Yeah, well, Lugol's is potassium iodide, right? So, but basically, I wonder whether it was the iodine. I don't know what it was, but that's the only thing I did. And and I couldn't keep Montiporas in my first tank when I first set it up, and I just thought it was nutrients or cycling, it was this and that and the other. And then I just decided to add in some Lugol's, and they went bang. And so iodine, absolutely. I mean, there's some people that believe in iodine. I think it's absolutely essential for a reef tank.
Yeah.
And that was my first hand experience of Monty's. And then
I suspected mine this was in my previous tank. We talked about flow and about detritus. I actually think the problem for mine in my previous tank was detritus, because they would grow very quick and beautiful, and being caps, they'd curl around and do all this and get, like siesta hat size, big Monty caps, and then just bang, die. And I'd be pretty certain that it'd just trap.
Always from the middle.
Yeah, exactly. And it'd just rot in there and just wipe it out. But
Sam, have you got Echinata?
I actually, we're talking about corals I picked up. I've got a really nice Echinata up here. You probably might be able to see this.
Yeah, I can see it.
It's an Echinata that I've never seen in person before. I've seen pictures of it, and I didn't really trust the pictures. It's normally Echinata white and blue, which is a fantastic combination. This one's white, but it's got the white fades through to green, which then fades through to blue. And I'd seen pictures of some online before, and we got a wild piece in last weekend, actually, at the shop I help out on Saturdays. And I was 100% certain that it would be picked up by every single customer that came in that day. And I said to myself, I'm not going to put it aside. If it's still here at the end of the day, I'll take it. And I have no idea how no one picked it up. And actually the peachy one that I was talking about before, that came in the same delivery. And I limited myself to one piece that week. And I thought, if it's still here next week, I'll grab it. And the two best colonies that came in on that order, no one bought. They're all buying stuff you see every delivery.
Funny story. I don't know if mine's is an Echinata, but it's the same coral color combination. Green goes into white and blue, and white on the shaft, and it's only just coloring up. But I got it from Sue, a wild Aussie SPS shipment, and it was it. And I saw before I went away, that's reserved, and this one wasn't, and it's the same coral that you've got there, and nobody, people, like everybody looked over it and nobody bought it, but it's because it had the green in it. And they think,
you're probably right. Yeah, the white and blue to the eye, I mean, initially looks better, but when you I'm trying to make a habit, particularly when my local fish shop gets an SPS delivery, I'm there 95% of the time. And they get a lot of wild Aussie SPS in, and not to say that some are better than others. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Not that some are better than others, but some SPS you see like in every single delivery, there's the same piece. It might be a beautiful piece, but you see it every single week. Every now and then you see a piece like that and you go, I've never seen this. I've been looking at SBS unboxings for 10, 15 years. I've never seen this. This is crazy. I've got to get it.
I've actually never seen an Echinata last a long time in anybody's tank. People buy it, they come in. That's why I was wondering in Australia, because they usually come from Australian shipments. And but I've never, it's very popular. The blue and white one comes in, everyone wants it. You see it, you buy that, and then you ask, 6 months later, what happened to that, and then you just go quiet because
I've been there.
So that's what I was saying. Difficult corals Echinata, and now apparently the Malaysian speciosus. So I've heard a story about how ammonium bicarb might be useful for speciosus, but is anyone keeping that long term? That if you can do that, your tank's spot on.
Anybody in the comments, what corals have you struggled with? Let us know. Get you involved in this conversation. Thanks to the 60 odd of you that are watching so far. A couple of shout outs to some other people that have joined us this Sunday. Hope you're having a good weekend. Mine's going to be, if I think back to first sort of years in the hobby, hammers tended to be wall, not branching, back in the day when I was getting corals. So the slightest little nick from a hermit crab, or it came in a little bit damaged, and you'd just start losing it. You'd try and chop. I mean, this was before bandsaws, so you'd got a chisel, or you would whatever you were trying to use, whacking it on the kitchen sideboard, trying to get rid of that brown jelly or whatever you
brown jelly flying everywhere.
So mine's going to be wall hammers. Were my sort of definitely the one I struggle to keep.
You can almost taste that brown jelly now.
It was horrendous. And then I think on SPS, Mo's kind of nicked it off me with the Echinata, but I'd even say tenuous. I've always struggled with tenuous.
Tenuous is finicky.
Yeah. Always struggled with tenuous. And I seem to think, and again, I know people are going to have different opinions. That's what this show is all about. I seem to think a lot of it is to do with the maturity of the tank. And I'll tell you why. Because I've got two downstairs in the DT that are absolutely like flourishing. But when I was, I suppose I'm probably going to answer my own question here. But I'm doing less on my tank now than I was when I was probably a year ago, as in testing and water chemistry and whatnot. But I could not keep one for the love of the money. But now I'm doing less, and the tank's older. They're doing fine. So maybe there's an answer in there somewhere.
The issue with tenuous is white bugs. And that's it. Full stop.
Yeah.
Talk to people who can keep tenuous. Who've got lots of tenuous in a tank, and I guarantee you they've all said they've treated for white bugs. If you've got the odd one, you might get lucky. If you've had talk to Christian, I'm sure he'll say that. But he's got treated. Yeah, so he's got treated tenuous, and he's got really nice ones. So if you've got a tank that's never been exposed to it, and you get a few tenuous from him, and that's where you stop, you'll probably do pretty well. So I used to struggle with my old tank, and I never could find out, even when it was mature and in massive 3-foot colonies, I couldn't work out why I still couldn't keep tenuous. And the tenuous, even if they took off, they would eventually fade. Now, if I go back and think about it now and say, well, could it have been white bugs? Well, white bugs are going to spread. So even if you put a new colony in, it does really well for a few months, and then it starts fading, and it goes from the base. And they always used to go from the base, get dark, and then start fading out. If that fits with them being white bugs. So I don't know back in the day whether we knew about white bugs or not, but we certainly know now. Tenuous, especially the really nice ones, get hit by white bugs. So I'm not saying that's the only thing it could be. They're quite touchy tenuous anyway. Don't put that shouldn't be the first coral you put in. You need to have a nice tank like Sam's to start thinking about having, going well with tenuous. But also, if the tenuous don't do well in a tank like Sam's, you've got to look at white bugs.
Yeah,
that's
what I think anyway.
Definitely.
Right, Josh knows about white bugs, don't you, Josh?
He does.
Yeah.
He does.
I think mine was red or white, but it was some sort of bugs.
Yeah.
Right, on that note,
that's a problem.
It is. We're past the hour and a half mark, gentlemen, so I'm going to wrap us up there. Thank you ever so much for coming on, Mo and Sam. Thank you very much for coming on and talking about your reef setups.
Tom,
yes.
Can I just circle back quickly to the phosphate? I just want to offer an opinion and sort of like a take on phosphate levels. Obviously, what Mo was talking about there with regards to obviously both Sam and Mo are running higher levels of phosphate. We're talking about concentrations in water. So for me, I've always gone lower end, like obviously it's traditionally been taught. So let's say I was keeping mine at 0.03. If I then had a spike in phosphates up to, let's say, 0.09, I've tripled my phosphate levels in the water. Yeah. So, and we know there's that symbiotic relationship between the zooxanthellae and the coral itself, obviously with the growth rates. And then when we see the corals brown out, it's because we've had that, let's say, triple. Again, I'm going to use that just as an example. Yeah. We've tripled the phosphate levels. Those zooxanthellae, in effect, are going, oh my God, I've got all of this food available to me, and they're going to start consuming it. And you think about a person consuming food. If I was to triple my food intake over a very short period of time, I would gain a lot of weight. And for zooxanthellae, we talk that the comparison is color. So when they have too much food, they start to brown out because they've got an overproduction of what provides their color. When you're talking about the higher ranges of phosphate, so let's say we're at 0.4 and you shoot up to 0.45, it's still quite a significant jump, almost comparable to that 0.3 to 0.9, but the concentration is only 12.5% increase. There's a very small amount of increase. And I think we need to look at things a little bit more from the proportion of increase rather than the actual like numerical value. So if we're jumping when we've got a 300% increase as opposed to a 12% increase, the rate at which those zooxanthellae are producing the energy provided for the coral to grow is much smaller. The coral's managed to adjust and is growing a lot faster. I did a little bit, I've mentioned before, I did quite a bit of reading of scientific journals regarding sort of coral feeding and growth. And I think the magic number is 0.5, which seems massively high. You'll have a real sort of graded range of growth. And when you hit 0.5, that's the peak level at which corals will grow. They'll grow really, Acropora especially, will grow really quickly at 0.5. And once you go over that, there's a real sharp drop off to the point where you start to see a lot of coral die off because there's too much energy there for the coral to survive. So those higher numbers that you guys are running are really great for coral growth, which is why we can see you having fantastic coral growth. And I think obviously because you've done it over a longer period of time, the zooxanthellae relationship with the coral growth has managed to match itself up. They've managed to, same as if you started going to the gym and exercising lots, if you increase the amount of growth your body is doing in relation to the amount of food you have, your muscle mass is going to increase rapidly. And the same goes for corals and their growth. If you're going to increase the amount of available food, so what the zooxanthellae are going to provide to the coral, if you're going to increase that and then allow that to settle, so we talk about stability, Mo, obviously you're saying you found 0.02, I think it was you said for yourself. Once you hit that level, everything seems to stay nice and stable. If you have that for a prolonged amount of time, the coral will pick up its growth rate and will match the amount of energy being provided by the zooxanthellae. So then your colors are going to come back again because the amount that the energy is being taken out of the zooxanthellae for the coral to grow will mean that they can bring their natural colors back out because there's not an overproduction. It becomes symbiotic, it becomes stable again. So I think we need to look at it more of a...
One more thing in that equation, which I mentioned was the light. So you can't ignore the light. So so the thing that actually drives them is the light. So if you have a higher nutrient level, you're not going to get away with not having the increase in light. So if you haven't, if you've got high nutrient levels and less light, you won't get the effect, and your corals might die off as well. So if the lower they are in the tank, and if your nutrient levels go up over a period of time, but your light level's the same, the lower SPS will start dying off, and the base will start going, and you'll have those. So you need. So there is another thing in that equation, and that's the amount of light you put in. So the higher you want to run your nutrients, make sure you got the light to match it.
Yeah, because obviously with that's what the zooxanthellae use, isn't it? Is to produce it. So they'll take the
I quite agree with what you said. Is that the zooxanthellae will populate more when they've got more nutrients.
Yeah,
so you need the light for them to drive energy.
Talking about light, Sam, looks like you're dimming dimming in the background. How much longer we got before you're in total darkness?
Probably about 15 minutes.
Right, okay. Gaz's asking me about the flame angel on the Niles tank behind me. Is it behaving, yes or no? Probably
that's a no, then.
It's no.
If you had to hesitate, no.
Yeah. So I'll show you if I can just.
That means he wants it to be behaving, but it's absolutely not.
I do want it to be behaving.
Not, yeah.
So if you can see this millie there, that is growing out quite well. You see the polyps are out a little bit, but not as shaggy as I would like. That is to answer your question. That is the flame angel. and every time she goes near it, she gives it a nibble, and they suddenly shoot back in again. But
do you find that
to answer your question, no. But I always wanted the flame angel, so we've got the flame angel. Yes.
Is that live rock, Tom?
No, that's a man-made ironing board. But the sump is full of live rock.
Where did you get live rock from?
At my old system, I've kept it. I always keep live rock.
Okay.
I try not to take it from anybody else if I can help it. But I did have some. Go on.
Did you see that Reef Bum video the other day, where he's going over all his systems?
I've not. No.
I find it really interesting. He grows massive SPS.
Yeah.
And originally he had some Haitian live rock, and then he's but this live rock's nice, and the tank was doing really well. Then he thought, I was a bit boring. I'll redo the rockscape. Did it with man-made rocks, and then just had algae problems no end. And then he's got a picture in this tank where it's just, oh, this is a problem I had, algae everywhere. I was fed up with it. So I eventually fragged my corals off, got rid of the thing, but I had the Haitian live rock in my sump. So I put the Haitian live rock back in this display, whacked the SPS frags back on, pretty big frags to start with. And he's got one 11 months later, and he's got like more than dinner size plates, like triple dinner size plates of all the really nice SPS. And it's just, it sounds like the difference was you took out all the man-made stuff and put Haitian live rock in. And so we all know that if you start with live rock, you get in earlier and you do well. But this is an example, and I've only used artificial rock, but where he's taken out his artificial rock, put his Haitian live rock back in, it's revolutionized his system. But the corals are just look at this video; it's absolutely amazing.
They're insane, aren't they?
When I did the display tank downstairs, obviously man-made scape, and I had so many issues for the first year, so many issues trying to put any coral in. It was a nightmare. This has only been running 6 months. Put live rock in the sump. Yeah, all right, that's a man-made scape because I just wanted it to. I like the overhang of it, and I've got, as you can see, acros on there that are doing fairly well. That have been in there for a month or two now. There's no way I would be able to do that. As I don't feel if I
you would eventually
diversity. I would eventually. It's a time thing.
Mine is 100%.
Yeah, definitely.
My first one was 100% man-made. This one's 100% man-made. The same company, same guy made them. No live rock at all, not even a single piece. But it just takes a while to kick in. Once it kicks in, it works nicely. It has to be porous. Yeah. But once it's porous, it just behaves like live rock.
Well, when you get your live rock out, it's just covered in sponges and all the stuff that you just know it doesn't feel nice. But that's what I've done in the garage. I've got a 500 litre vat now that is absolutely full to the brim of live rocks. There was a shop near me that closed, unfortunately, last year, just before Christmas, Sea Store. Pete that used to run that, and I bought all his live rock off him. The shop had been running about 12 years. So I bought all that off him for next to nothing, and I've just kept it. And now I'm redoing the garage. I'm hoping that once I've got certain levels under control, I'll be able to put frags in from the display tank downstairs, and I'm hoping that they should take off, which is that's the idea anyway. So
probably a no-brainer for Sam to get live rock. Just walk to your nearest beach to you.
Live rock.
Yes, definitely. Everybody else has got a bucket and spade, and Sam's got a bucket and a chisel. Yeah. Anyway, now I was going to wrap us up there. Thank you ever so much, like I say, for joining us, Sam and Mo. Just got to give a shout out to Joe, the Scottish Reefer. He's asked me to share something with the viewers and those of you that may watch this back. So as you know, Joe runs, he's got his own little website now. He's doing an aquarium giveaway. So if people want to win some of the recent, or should I say, some of the recent prizes that he's managed to grab hold of, I think it's as little as 49p to enter the raffle. He's put us on a special discount for this weekend. So if you go on the aquariumgiveaway.co.uk and you use the code TRN20, you will get 20% off the tickets that you buy at checkout. And I think here's a little video.
And some of these prizes for as little as 49p. Head on over to the aquariumgiveaway.co.uk, and just for you lucky listeners, if you use code TRN20, you'll get 20% off your whole order at the checkout.
Thank you very much, Joe. So those of you who want to give it a go, 49p, you could win yourself an MP40 by the looks of that, or some other reefing prizes. Head over to the aquarium giveaway and use the code TRN20. Right, Sam, Mo, thank you ever so much once again for joining us this Sunday. Sure. Josh, emotional as ever. You all right?
Yeah.
Still with us? Yeah. Still switched on. Good. We need to give a big shout out to the British Lionesses this afternoon. Good luck in the final of the Women's Euros. I hope you can bring it home again. It would be amazing if you do. Next Friday, we have the Dong is back on. So yes, Dong's going to be joining us next Friday. So we will see you all there for sure.
What's on Dong's desk?
What's on Dong's desk? Yes, I did talk to you about that yesterday, so that is the question. But no, Dong will be joining us next Friday. That leaves me to say, enjoy the rest of your Sunday, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Thanks, Sam. Thanks, Mo. And Josh, once again, we'll see you all on Friday. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
See you guys.